Hello and welcome to For Your Reconsideration, a film podcast in which three film school graduates reassess the maligned, underseen or financially disappointing films from filmmakers far more talented than they are. We assess whether these pictures deserved the less than optimal reception they got on release, and whether they are now worthy of your time, or should remain in the obscure hinterland they currently occupy. My name's Rob, and as always, I'm joined by my cinema-loving chums, Simon and James. How you doing, boys?
Very well, thank you, Robert.
I am great. Cheers, Rob.
Excellent stuff. I believe it's probably, this being the first episode and all, probably the right time to ask the question, well, why this? Why For Your Reconsideration, and why for us three?
Well, not that the world needs more opinions from white males, but but I guess it was, I wouldn't say my idea,
It
but
was.
Yeah, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Everyone's a film critic nowadays, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, which
Us
is fine.
included, apparently.
Well, yeah. But everyone's a film critic, which, you know, everyone's entitled to opinions, of course, and measured film criticism is sort of essential to the conversation of films and filmmaking.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm beginning to find that the online space, in particular places like Twitter, it's become a very negative and almost smug and snobby, like, echo chamber, as if it's really easy to, you know, like, make a film. And I just feel a lot of the time films are just getting really harshly treated. Films in the past have been harshly treated, and films in the future will get harshly treated. And I just think, rather than trying to look for the negatives in films, which I feel a lot of people do nowadays, let's try and pull out the positives from, like, even what's considered the worst of films. Because sometimes films fall by the wayside, and hopefully we're going to try and say to people, you know, give this film a watch. It deserves another chance, basically.
Yeah. I love that. I love that central message. It's nice and pure. I like it.
Fantastic. I think, Si, your original idea was to do sort of a YouTube channel, wasn't you?
Yeah,
And,
it was. I mean,
with all the fun editing, bells and whistles, and when you shared that idea with me, I was like, I'd quite like to get involved with that, but that sounds like a lot of work.
It really would be. I'm glad we've diverted into a conversational podcast, because it's
exactly.
It's a lot easier. Definitely.
Plus, there's hardly any film podcasts out there, so
Yeah. It's a barren wasteland. There's nothing.
The market is not saturated.
No. I think I was very delighted when you guys invited me along to be along on the podcast. And then I realised, actually, it's because I have the worst taste in films imaginable. And that is why you asked me. And I'm happy watching all sorts of tripe, which the listeners are going to find out. I love a good bad movie. I mean, you do not want to see my Blu-ray collection. You don't want it. Promise.
I have, and he's right. Yeah, you don't want to see it.
So with this being a film podcast, we're actually going to get on to the film of the week in due course, but we're always watching stuff all the time, aren't we, boys? So what have you guys been watching this week?
I haven't really had time to watch that much, but I did catch that Netflix film Velvet Buzzsaw last week, which I really liked. There's plenty to love about it. No less the performance from Gyllenhaal is
it's
brilliant. So
good.
He's just really, play that sort of stereotypical art critic, camps it up to the max. He's very, very good.
Yeah, he's loving it, isn't he? Like, he's absolutely just going for it. I think he's fantastic anyway. Like, I'll watch him read The Phone Book. I think he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, he is ace. He's really, really good. He throws himself into every role he does.
Yeah.
It was great. It was good. But ultimately, I was a bit disappointed because it just felt like a remake of the first half of Ghostbusters 2.
Ooh, now we're talking.
And then it just finished. Like, there was no closure, I don't think. But it was good film. It's definitely worth checking out. There's plenty to love about it. Looks great. Performances are great. And it's really surreal, really weird film. So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's the Nightcrawler team, isn't it? So it's Dan Gilroy and Robert Elswit on DP and Jake Gyllenhaal. Nightcrawler is one of my favourite films for the last 10 years. So I think I liked it a little bit more than you did, Si. But I echo what you say in terms of it's going for satire and like how art and commerciality don't mix. But it's just like, yeah, we know. That's the point of the movie.
What have you guys been watching?
So this week, I've been desperately trying to catch up on stuff that I've missed from 2018. So I happened to notice that the Academy Award winning and BAFTA winning documentary Free Solo was on this week.
Not seen that.
On National Geographic. And what it is it tells the story of this guy, Alex, whose surname escapes me. Great research. who's going to free solo, which means climb without a rope up El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. So obviously, as you would expect for this type of film, it's got amazing visuals, like of real great rock climbing photography. And there's a very real possibility that he could die doing this, just one slip and he's dead, basically. It's like the opening of Mission Impossible 2, but done for real, essentially.
They didn't do that for real?
No, he pussied out and he had a little rope on. God, Tom Cruise really needs to up his game, doesn't he?
You have pulled back the curtain fully on Oz there, James. You bastard.
Day sufficiently ruined.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic documentary. It's really fascinating sort of character study. So in one instance, I really admire this guy and his dedication to his craft and wanting to leave a mark in, his chosen profession of climbing up really high things with no safety equipment. And then at the other end, he's like this emotionally stunted man-child who lives in a van and treats his girlfriend like a piece of shit. So
wow.
It's really, really fascinating. Like, I would very much recommend it. I think it's excellent.
Cool.
Well, much to my embarrassment, I've got to confess, I've not seen either of those nor heard of either of them. So I'm obviously in the right place, being the host of a film podcast. In fact,
that Netflix subscription pays for itself, doesn't it, Rob?
It really does, yeah. Well, especially, I have 3 kids and they do all the Netflixing in this house that subscription needs. Yeah, I thought you were throwing me a lifeline when you started mentioning Ghostbusters 2 and Mission Impossible 2.
We're just tickling your balls, Rob. We're not actually going to go.
Thanks, man. As for myself, as I mentioned, 3 kids doesn't give you a lot of time to watch too much. But we were rewatching Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. But we had to stop halfway through, actually, because
you realised that life was too short.
No. This is not a filmy thing, but we realised that there was a bad smell in the room, and a bird had died falling down the chimney.
Oh God!
And it was so the stench of decomposition was too much of us to carry on. So that's the sum of what I've watched this week, I'm afraid, lads.
Great.
Yeah.
Good week
really
all
good.
Round for everyone.
It was. Shall we dive into this week's movie?
Yeah. What is this week's movie? Who picked it this week?
I'm delighted to say it was me. So,
oh dear.
we have gone all in from the get-go with 1993's Hard Target.
Oh my days!
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
In the city of New Orleans, in a darker side of Dixie, away from the music and the lights, there's a new game in town.
You'll be provided with a guide, trackers, and the weapons of your choice.
I need to file a missing person report.
The competitors are deadly.
We pride ourselves in hunting only combat veterans, men who have the necessary skills to make our hunts more interesting.
They always win.
You want to find your father? Get somebody who knows the city to show you around.
Now, the opposition is about to get one last chance.
My friend, Mr. Boudreaux. Silver Star, Marine Force Recon. He's obviously not someone we should underestimate. He is an annoying little insect. I want him stepped on hard.
We need to get out of here now.
Ladies first.
What?
These men will chase after you. He mad at you for business or pleasure?
Both. Look at it this way. You're gonna get to meet Elvis. Give it a rest, pal.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is the hard target.
You miss me?
From internationally acclaimed action director John Woo.
How's it feel to be hunted?
You tell me!
Hard Target.
I mean, I'm just going to stick my cards on the table here. It's fucking brilliant.
All right, that's episode 1 done.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. I think this film would hold it holds a very... Why I'd pick this one. There was a phase when I was sort of like, from the age of 15 to 36, which is the present day, where I loved anything that Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal did, although Steven Seagal has segued away now that he's become sort of some Jim Henson, Vladimir Putin creation.
He's become the villain of his own movies. It's so
he has,
bizarre.
yeah. So I hold that sort of golden era of Seagal of 89 to 91 really, really, really solidly. And then, but yeah, Van Damme, this is just peak Van Damme. So yeah, let's get right into it. James, I believe you have a little quiz for us.
Yeah. So just to sort of set up a bit of the background for the film, so just to bullet point through this. So this is John Woo's first American film.
Yes.
So obviously he's already a big deal in Hong Kong. He's made The Killer, he's made Hard Boiled, Better Tomorrow. He's no doubt got producers from America chasing him to come over and do projects, and this is the one that he's deemed to do. After he was actually visited by Van Damme, screenwriter Chuck can't pronounce that guy's name at all, and producer James Jacks, so they pled the case and he went along with it.
Ugh.
Why this is kind of a groundbreaking film is that John Woo is the first Asian director to helm a Hollywood studio picture.
Oh, wow.
You mean it's not groundbreaking because of Van Damme's hair?
Well, we'll get on to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
How many pages of notes do we have on the hair in this one? I mean, I've got at least 10 myself.
I must say, we're going to have a little bit of a quiz that is a little bit spoilerific. So, guys, if you've not watched the film yet, go away, watch it.
And have the best 90 minutes of your life.
Yeah. Come back and listen to the rest of the episode. So, got 3 questions here for you guys. First one's going to be a little bit of a stab in the dark from your perspective, and then we'll have the others a bit of guesswork, essentially.
Nice.
So, question 1. Obviously, Van Damme came out to Hong Kong to pitch the movie to John Woo, but who did Woo actually want to play the lead role?
Oh.
Think of action stars from that period.
Bruce Willis?
Nope.
No, it's is it John Carpenter? Kurt Russell.
Oh, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, how awesome would that have been? Kurt Russell is Chance Boudreaux.
I mean, I don't think Kurt Russell could get his leg as high as Jean-Claude Van Damme can.
No way.
There would have had to be a tweak to the fight choreography, I think.
The levels of acting would be great, but I'm happy with the silver medal for Van Damme, though. He's... I love
how he
you are
came
never
to
to
pitch
say
the movie
silver
and
medal.
almost got taken out of it by the director. Yeah, I'll do it, but not with him. So Van Damme's on a pretty good run at this stage. He's
Kickbox has been done, hasn't it?
Kickboxer, Bloodsport, and then so he's sort of at the peak of his powers. He's right in the middle of the height of his popularity, I would say. So. Question 2, and this will give the listener a real sense of the content of this film. How many times was the film submitted to the MPAA, which is the equivalent of the BBFC in America, to get its R rating?
Was it like NC-17 the entire time until...
Yeah. So whoever gets the closest gets the point.
7.
Let's say 17.
How many?
17, 1-7.
17. No, size trounced you again, Rob. He's got it bang on 7.
Is he 7? Wow, good break.
No way. Amazing.
Okay, and now the final and most important question. What is the body count of this particular film?
Oh, God.
Actually, I think it's not as high as I thought it was going to be, I think.
I don't think that many people die. He just kind of knocks a lot of people out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've
and
got the
shoots
answer.
them many times as well. Why use one bullet when 17 will do? Again, I don't know. Body count, let's go for 54.
Simon?
I'm going to go 32.
Oh, he's done you again, Rob.
No,
34,
no.
including the snake.
34? Oh, my
Absolute
word.
guesswork. Wow, that's pretty good.
Nice.
I'm impressed with myself, especially because I know
just
how many times...
100%ed that quiz.
How many times you have watched this film, Rob? So I'm quite pleased with my scores there.
I mean, when I was watching the film back again this week again for, like you say, the billionth time, I'm literally enjoying it so much that I'm like, I need to reach out to everyone I know and go like, I'm having a great time here. I'm enjoying myself. I just wanted to make contact with people to share the love that I felt that I was going through at the time. This also actually, we watched this together once, boys. I don't know whether you remember.
How could I forget?
we were on a lad's holiday to the Costa del Sol, and
Lads. lads.
Anyone who knows us knows that is not an accurate description.
Yeah, that is not.
We tried to have a lads' holiday, didn't we?
Yeah, what we'd do, we'd have a high old time of an evening, and then sleep in, and then in the morning you'd get up and you'd have those first crust campos of the day with an offering from the DVD bag that I bought with me, which was usually either Van Damme or Seagal. And this one was, I mean, we introduced this to a room full of boys that we knew what we were watching, but the boys with us did not know. They were not ready for this, and they were. It was one of the greatest movie watching experiences of my whole life.
If you're going to watch a film with a group of your mates while you're like trying to like sweat out a hangover, what a perfect film to do that.
Oh yeah, and by the end you're so jazzed, so ready, you're going to go and do it all over again. Straight back out.
And by the end of it, we were sweatier than Van Damme is at the end of this film.
So what did you guys, overall, I'm getting an undercurrent of positivity from you both about it.
Well, as long as you know what you're about to watch and you know what it's going for and the era it's made as well.
I've got written down here, is this the most 90s movie ever made?
So 90s. John Woo is so specific to that era anyway.
Yeah.
You've got 90s action star. And if you go into it knowing that's what you're going to get, you're going to have a great time.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how did you both discover this film? Because obviously it came out in 1993.
My good friend Rob Parker.
Was it me?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yo, I'm so happy about that.
I'd never heard of this film before meeting you, Rob. Yeah.
Love you, man. For me, it was this was one of those tapes that was passed around in high school. A VHS. Has anyone who's got a hard target this week? And it was one of them things like that. Some of the cool guys were obsessed with it, and one of my mates had it on video, and we'd pass it around, and then you'd have to sneak it home, and watch it, and couldn't get over what you were seeing.
Yeah, I think I've maybe discovered this when I was about 15 or 16, just sort of channel hopping. In bed or whatever, and I just stumbled on the last 40 minutes of this film, and I'd never seen a John Woo film
which
before.
is one long fight scene.
Yeah, I'd never seen a John Woo film before, and I was like, wow, what the hell is this? I mean, because at that point I think I'd probably seen a few Van Damme films by that stage. I mean, I'd put it on the table, this is by far the best film that he's ever been in.
Who, Van Damme?
Yeah, I think Yeah, I quite like JCVD was really good. But he was sort of playing that meta Van Damme, wasn't he? It was himself in a way, wasn't he?
He was trying to act.
He was doing a damn good job of it, James.
All right, settle down. Robbie's also moonlighting as Jean-Claude Van Damme's agent these days.
And we're doing very well, thank you, James. The phone never stops ringing.
How's that Amazon series going?
Stop it. The man's my hero.
Hey, that Amazon series was funny as fuck.
It was really good, wasn't it?
So funny.
It was quite good. I think I watched the pilot and enjoyed it. Did it go to series? Actually?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Did it? All right, okay. I must catch up on the rest of it. I watched the pilot and did enjoy it, actually. I don't know why I'm dissing it. I really like this film.
Yeah. One of the reasons that, we have a criteria, don't we, for having a chat about these films or putting these films forward, and one of them is whether it had a poor critical reception or whether it was a box office bomb. What was the critical reception for this one?
As you can expect, it was quite middling, actually. Like, some people got it, I think, and then some people, treat it on a level as the good Oscar films of the time. And you can't treat this film like that. So
wasn't that 93? Wasn't that Schindler's List?
Yeah, so
definitely Jurassic Park, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if we're looking at Rotten Tomatoes, I've got it as 53% on the critic scale, and then surprisingly, I think the audience scale is slightly lower at 48%.
I know exactly the same, because this is a crowd pleaser. I'm sorry, everyone is going to get a kick out of this. I don't know. I don't know about you, Si. When you were reading the reviews, did you just think that a lot of the critics who were actually reviewing it at the time obviously knew John Woo from his Hong Kong films?
And they were a bit disappointed, I think.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden, because he's making a film in America and he's no longer just like this cult filmmaker that they know about, did you think that they wanted to stick the boot in a bit in that sense?
That wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, because it's that whole when someone's a cult figure and they're very niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you like a band
Oh yeah, exactly.
When
All
nobody
those
knows
hardcore
who
fans
they
just gonna
are.
go
Yeah.
like, oh shit, no, because he's commercial.
He's a sellout, that
yeah.
kind of stuff, yeah.
But it fares a wee bit better on IMDb's audience rating. It's got 6.1, so that's a bit better.
I mean, I have to be honest, anytime I see a 6 on IMDb, I'm like, well, I know I'm going to like that. That's my gradient for success. Like, yeah, we're in there.
Yeah.
Anything over 5, I'm thinking, oh, this is... I'm in an exalted company here.
Yeah, but I mean, Empire, so, Kim Newman, who's a pretty well-respected critic, he liked it. He was like...
Yeah, he did, yeah.
He was like, doesn't feel it's as good as what John Woo did in Hong Kong, which, to a degree, I don't think it is. I think,
I think those movies are immense. Those 3 that you mentioned, James, earlier on, they are absolutely incredible and so locked into a time that, again, that sort of very early 90s, 80s to 90s crossover period of Hong Kong cinema, which Wu was just the absolute king of and doing things.
Chow Yun-fat's the man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, put 2 on 9mm in that guy's hand. I mean, Jesus, honestly. Forget about it.
But you have, I mean, you watch Hong Kong cinema of those times, and even before that, when you go to Bruce Lee films, there is a lot of them are quite tongue-in-cheek, and they are a bit cheesy, and they are a bit corny. Yet when you're watching it as a Hong Kong film, it gets away with it because that's what they are as a genre. To bring that over to America and essentially do the same thing,
and I thought he massively dumbed down a lot of that. He dumbed down a lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah, totally. So
it's
he's
nowhere
trying to
near
appeal.
as earnest. His Hong Kong films are so incredibly earnest. The shootout at the end of The Killer in the church. Where they're weeping as they're mowing down henchman after henchman.
I think I read somewhere about this one, about Hard Target, obviously, that Wu had to recut it so many times, not for the MPAA, for the audiences, because they were just walking out because he'd used so many fades, which audiences in America at the time were, exactly, they just didn't know what they were watching. So fades in American sort of moving image productions at the time were all associated with the passage of time. And I was watching it thinking, if you took every fade literally, this movie takes place over a few decades. Although Van Damme gets changed once during that period.
We'll talk about that outfit later. Whoa.
It's as iconic as anything I've ever seen, James.
I'm not even taking the mick. Why do you always think I'm having a fun?
Let's just say I went to a few fancy dress parties in double denim.
With a mullet. Right, let's discuss the hair. Are we calling it a mullet?
Oh, yes, 100% a mullet. But it's a gorgeous mullet. It's a greasy,
it's a
gorgeous
snake-bitten mullet.
Bret Hart mullet.
The oil. I mean, what was the budget for the film?
The budget for the film was 19.5 million, and it actually grossed 74.2 worldwide.
So that's good.
Nice.
It's done
So
well on the
profitable,
box office. Yeah,
especially when you consider that 20% of that budget was just on snake oil for the hair.
Oh
yeah, exactly. I mean, we're talking about an era here where a film doesn't die on the opening weekend, that 3-day period as to whether it's going to be profitable or not.
Yeah.
And, you can't get these kind of films made these days in terms of, if you think about the environment at the time, obviously there's a big audience for these type of action thrillers. And you've got the top tier guys, your Willises, your Arnies and your Sly Stallones. And then you've got Van Damme as sort of a second tier kind of action star.
Yeah.
Who can open a film and it be profitable worldwide.
Yeah, it's interesting. And now when you put it like that, James, you can't imagine that time happening ever again, really, can you?
No, because this will have just hung around in cinemas for about 3 or 4 weeks,
Yeah, and if you go into a multiplex, and I mean, again, for me, gone are the days where you go to the multiplex and you go, well, what should we watch? And you look across all the movies, and now it's like, well, you make a specific trip to see something, don't you?
Oh, Avengers is on 8 screens, and then there's some other counter programming on 2 of the others. Yeah, that didn't happen back then. There wasn't. No. Tentpoles obviously did really well still at that time, but this level of movie could actually survive when it was released into the marketplace.
Well, that's nearly quadrupled its budget.
In
terms of its takeover.
Well, I think you've got 2 factors there, though, haven't you? You've got John Woo's first American movie, and then Jean-Claude Van Damme is, as you said before, James, was riding the wave at that point in time. You just look at it like, was he the best looking 90s action dude?
Oh,
Van Damme.
absolutely. He wins hands down. Yeah.
I used to look at his stubble and think, like, how does a person do that? How do I get that? I don't know how. You know, like, it is that perfect.
As the film progresses, he becomes less so he loses an item of clothing after every 20 minutes.
Swoon.
So yeah, he's just teasing everyone. Yeah, he is an absolute babe, total babe.
Yeah, the illusion is slightly dented quite often by some of the funniest body double work I've ever seen.
Oh, my word.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Particularly on the motorcycle was very glaring. Like.
Trying to keep his head down as much as possible. It's like, you're not getting away with it, mate. We know it's not him.
I think, you know, if you are going to hire a body double that is a lot chunkier than the main star and give him a very obvious comedy wig, it will give it away.
Yeah, especially when you have a director who shoots ostensibly in slow motion.
Yeah, from multiple angles. I mean, on the topic of slow motion and angles and stuff like that, the camera is never still in this film.
Oh no.
John Woo has brought everything possible to the table here, hasn't he?
Yes, I mean, it's a perfect sort of vehicle for him and Van Damme. So I don't know whether it's a bit of a chicken and the egg thing. Is it Woo putting his style onto Van Damme? Is it Van Damme putting his style onto Woo? Or is it just sort of emerging in the middle? Because I don't think Woo's ever shot so many roundhouse kicks in his life.
No. Like, constantly just roundhousing people in the face, making them lick boot.
There was a geezer at the end. I counted how many times this geezer at the end got shot. He looks a bit like a pug. The guy at the end, he got shot 7 times at point blank range. Then Van Damme did a spinning heel kick to his face, and then he emptied another 8 shots in him. I think he's dead, Jean-Claude. I think he's dead.
I know we're jumping all over the place here, but if you had to do that final sequence as a meme, it'd be that Simpsons meme of stop, he's already dead.
On that, something that caught my eye watching it again is, you know, and this is, he loves to introduce something, not Van Damme, Woo, doesn't he? And he gives Van Damme 2 introductions. In fact, it's 3. He gives him 3 character introductions. One with that gorgeous close-up of that immaculate stubble when he's having the gumbo in the house. And he describes it as a tragedy.
The gumbo? A tragedy.
Tragedy. I think, you know, when I was in my teens, like, Mum would ask me at dinner, like, how was dinner? I'm like, tragedy.
Oh, God, you must have been a nightmare to live with.
Did you eat dinner with, like, long, greasy mullet and a long trench coat, denim jeans?
Yeah, Mum would shout, it's dinner time, Rob, and I would run upstairs to double denim myself up.
Robert, take those walking boots off in the house.
Yeah.
Stop roundhouse kicking your dad.
There's that intro in there, and then he says, I just love it all. And then there's outside the Half Moon restaurant where, you know, they're being horrible, those scumbags, to poor Yancey Butler. And you know, it's all very much in broad daylight. I mean, I know the police are on strike, but are they absent? Is any law and order absent in this town?
Well, Rob, if you've been paying attention, you should notice this from the film, considering the 8 million times you've watched it. There is actually a police strike going on at the time.
Oh, no, that's what I mean.
Is that what it is?
Like,
I totally missed that.
I mean, you couldn't do that in broad... are they that brazen? I mean, obviously, there is so much criminality in plain sight in this film.
They must have wrote that in afterwards. They must have put those scenes in afterwards that there was a cop strike.
Where are the cops?
Yeah.
Where is anyone?
This is the Wild
There's no
West.
one on the streets. Like, it seems like they filmed everything exterior in the same street corner, just dressed things to weave it differently. Where there's no one there. There's no one there apart from the criminals and Van Damme.
Just going back to the Yancey Butler incident in the street. You know, Van Damme, who's, I think we should mention his character name now, if we haven't already, who plays a character named Chance Boudreaux.
I mean,
which is one of the best character names ever.
It is actually genuinely
just
good.
Name me one better. I can't think of any.
Wasn't there a bit where they say, like, why are you called Chance?
Oh, yeah.
My mama took one.
And then he's
what does that mean?
he's like, chalk one up. I've obviously styled that one right out. And then he says, what's her name? This is to Yancy Butler, and she says, Nat. And he says, your parents name you for a bug? Like, Jean-Claude! Seriously, she is your boss. She's paying your wages here, mate.
$217.
$217. I mean, I love it all, obviously.
The prologue is wrapped up in like 5 minutes before we get to Jean-Claude Van Damme. And then it's one-liner city. Like, he just churns out one-liner after one-liner.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at this stage, we should probably do a synopsis for the film, which we haven't done.
Yes, yeah. Does anyone have one? I mean, I can go... Can I do one off the top of my head?
Yeah,
yes, go for it, yeah.
The best
all right,
qualified.
Thank you very much. In a lawless New Orleans backwater, Jean-Claude Van Damme dons double denim to take down a hunting ring where the target is the humans.
But not just any humans, it's specific type of humans. So homeless ex-vets.
That's the one.
They have to be skilled, don't they? Not just like a random bum on the street, because that's easy.
And the tagline for this film is, "Don't hunt what you can't kill."
Whoa.
Get in the Twitch.
Get in there, get in there. And the film obviously opens with them hunting what you definitely can't kill, Mick Foley.
The first thing I wrote down, is that Mick Foley?
No, it's not.
It is Chuck Ferrara, the screenwriter.
Oh, is it? He looks a lot like Mick Foley. I was convinced it was Mick Foley. I also loved as well, like, Chuck Ferrara, whatever he's called, when he got killed by the arrow, through his heart. I don't know where he's trying to go. He's like on the boardwalk, and on a pier, and he's trying to go into the water.
Yeah, that's a good place to escape.
Yeah, and then
well, no, the rules are if he gets to the river, he gets.
Oh
$10,000.
Oh, is that what it is? So he's about to get his $10,000.
He's not. We're going to kill him. Whatever.
And then he gets killed, and then as he falls into the drink, that's when "Directed by John Woo" fades up.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like...
also, that amazing moment where when that hammer blow arrow goes right through him, it goes in one place and out the other. It's not a straight arrow when they pull back.
And through his dog tags as well, were his dog tags glued to his chest for the...
there's more arrow time in this movie than Prince of Thieves, isn't there? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous.
They reused
that
one arrow shot about 50 times. Like,
but what an arrow shot.
That's where most of the budget went, I think, on that fancy arrow shot.
Yeah. I read that the original cut of the movie also went well in excess of 2 hours because it featured so much more of Van Cleef and Fouchon, who's Arnold Vosloo and Lance Henriksen.
What a double act.
They were amazing. They were absolutely amazing.
Bishop and the Mummy, as I'm going to call them, because I haven't bothered to learn their names.
Is Arnold Vosloo, is he South African by heritage, or was that his character?
No, he is South African.
He is South African, right?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to figure out why he was South African. I mean, it was great. I had no quarrels with the fact he was South African, but he was ace. And yeah, what a double act that was.
Yeah, I mean, properly
unhinged. I know you mean that, Simon, because you wouldn't want to hurt my feelings.
And he says that twice in the film.
That's his catchphrase.
Is that why it was? I was like, I've got it in my notes here. They couldn't give him another payoff line. Like, Van Damme's got maybe 400 of them, but they've got to give poor Vosloo the same one over and over.
What's your favourite Van Damme line in this movie? My favourite is, we've sort of glossed over it, so after Yancy Butler gets in trouble for not being more careful with her wallet.
This pronunciation of words is pretty bad.
The street toughs come up to Chance, right? And he's like, "Hey man, why don't you get out of here?" And then he goes, and he pulls the flick knife on him, which is the most 90s street weapon ever. And he goes, "Why don't you take your big stick and your boyfriend and find a bus to catch?"
Oh, that bit. And then it goes down and he reveals his like really big leg in his lovely corduroy pants, and you're like, oh shit, some people are about to get kicked in the face.
Hobo sheep. But he uses that someone might be gay as an insult twice in the film. He does it later on, like he goes to poor Randall. We'll get to Randall.
Oh,
Randall. To him, yeah.
He goes, tell your boyfriend Van Cleef. So Chance might be an ass-kicking good guy, but I think he's a bit of a homophobe as well.
Your befriend. Well, I say like the way he pronounces words when he says, and your befriend. But then he says it a bit where he goes like, they talk about New Orleans. And he goes, it's a shame. This used to be a nice part of town. He can't say town. He goes, town.
This used to be such a nice part of town.
I think I like... there's actually a nice line when he comes in. And it's where Van Damme actually steals Vosloo's line when he's got beat up and he gets arrested. And... Butler comes in and says, "Oh, you look awful." And he says, "Darling, you hurt my feelings." No, I went into Van Cleef to do it. I couldn't help myself. You hurt my feelings. I thought he did it really nicely. And she gave him a little smile. The kind of smile that she does later on, obviously, when... We have to talk about the snake, don't we?
We do.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Okay. I mean,
before we leave Yancey Butler getting backhanded in the street, broad daylight, there's one thing that I will give Van Damme credit for here, and he doesn't get much credit as an actor because he's classed as an action star with a weird accent who can't act. Basically,
which is unfair.
Yeah, unfair, I would say, because I think he's better than a lot of. He's better than Arnie, let's be honest.
And he's a good dancer as well.
Never thought.
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
He can do the splits as well.
But there's a bit where he steps in, when them street toughs, one of which has still got his hand on Yancey Butler's ass while Chance is having a word with him, right? And he steps in and opens and he opens the car door for her and he goes, "It's okay." Like, it just gives her this reassuring movie star look. I got a twitch, honestly, like...
And he does that wink as well, doesn't he?
I will follow you to the end of the world, Chance.
And she's on his side straight away with that. Not because he's a most handsome man she's ever seen.
I like that there's that little bit of vulnerability about him, although it's so scant because you have to believe he's nailed. When he admits he doesn't have a driver's license. "I don't have a driver's license, ma'am."
I bet he can't read.
I think that was like a genuine Van Damme thing, and they were like, "Oh shit, we're gonna have to write this into the script because he can't drive off on this."
There's a few times when he goes really sassy as well, Van Damme. When they won't let him on the boat, and he's like, "How can I get the funds if I cannot get the job?" And like, all right, mate, just settle down, And like, "I'll get the money. I'll get it. Oh, just settle in, will you?"
Yeah.
But he does that Yancey Butler bit is the first time he does the wink as well, isn't it? Little tiny little wink. So I did from that moment I did a wink count throughout the film. How many times he does it, and he does it 5 times. Number 4 being the best because it's a pigeon that lands on his shoulder. Like in the middle of a gunfight. Yeah. There's that woo saying like, "Oh, I'll try something different. I'll just change the species of avian."
No budget for it. Can't afford the doves. Pigeons everywhere. John, make it work.
Scratty ground rats, sky rats. That moment actually at the boatyard is where we get the second introduction of Van Damme. The third introduction of Van Damme, because he gets 3 separate character introductions.
Oh, he does. Yes. Now I remember this one.
And every time, and we pan up and we see him, and every time he comes on, Van Damme, there's that lovely slide guitar, and here he is, smashing the double denim again, snake oil through the hair. Our man is back.
The music throughout it's not only peak 90s, but it's like peak Hollywood as well. So there's like a different motif for each bit. So Van Damme's got his little intro. It's like the slide guitar. And then you've got the New Orleans music. Because when it started, I was like, I was like, oh, we're in New Orleans. Straight away. You didn't need to see any skylines of New Orleans. They didn't even show any of that anyway. They just totally did the music. And they went, yeah, we're in New Orleans. Yeah.
I think it makes quite a lot out of the setting, actually. I mean, the whole finale takes place in the Mardi Gras graveyard.
Yeah. And it gives Van Damme a chance to say the word graveyard.
Yeah. But like going back to the music, some of it sounds like it was like recorded by a Michael Bolton looking motherfucker. And he recorded it at night, obviously, by candlelight.
Oh, yeah.
Shot by Michael Mann via the late 80s.
Yeah, well, especially when they finally do that a pan over the establishing shot over all of New Orleans, don't they? And it's like the skyline in the distance and the guitar is wailing and echoing, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, the guitar is very sensual.
Oh, it is, yeah, definitely. We were talking about the villains before, but there is another sort of like an undervillain, isn't there, in Randall Poe?
Randall's just a pawn. He's just a pawn. He's getting beat up by everyone.
He's another victim, isn't he? He is given one of the most horrible introductions. Well, the wake-up call from hell with Van Cleef.
Let me try and deliver it. Hello, Randall. Wakey, wakey, you fat fuck.
He karate chops him in his big fat belly.
Cuts his hair
You're
off.
in New Orleans. You're in New Orleans and he's wearing full sweats to bed. I mean, you're going to be baking, man.
I imagine he's so sweaty it doesn't even matter at this stage. He just wears layers all the time.
He is the, for me, when I think of, that sort of horrible token role that appears in lots of 90s movies of the overweight slob, he is the only one that pops into my head whenever that role is mentioned. It's just, he is the best archetypal example of that for me.
I felt so sorry for him because he just constantly got manhandled. All his screen time, he was either getting karate chopped in the gut. He gets his ear chopped off as well. And then Van Damme...
having his sexuality questioned by Van Damme.
Van Damme roughs him up a little bit. And then he gets his head blown off, like, in the worst way.
He gets point blank shotgunned in the face.
And that's when Van Cleef, when he's a bad guy, when he goes, ooh, when he looks at him, what he's done to him, ooh. Superb.
And before we go, I know we've sort of got like pray for Randall going on here, but let's not forget the fact that he's actually recruiting the homeless people to be hunted and murdered by these rich folks.
That's right, yeah. Oh no, I don't pray for Randall, ever.
What did we think of the social commentary here? I thought this was if John Woo directed a Ken Loach film, to be perfectly honest.
It was expensive, wasn't it? It was like $500,000, was it?
Oh yeah, to kill a homeless guy, yeah.
Expensive.
Kill an ex-military homeless guy, yeah. And they say they've been, Fouchon and Van Cleef had been doing it for years all over the place, like in the Balkans and Eastern Europe and all sorts of places. Like, they've got a decent little racket going.
Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
I like that sequence where Randall's recruiting the, is he called Elijah, the other homeless guy?
Roper.
Who actually's got Elijah Roper he's called, I think. And Bishop's just there tickling the ivories, like proper. He's absolutely luxuriating in the role. Is Lance Henriksen?
You've never.
Don't put the scenery too close because he will chew it. Yum yum yum, yummy scenery.
In that scene as well, they pan back and he's wearing spats. There's like sort of vaudevillian gangster shoes. It's this guy. Have you ever seen a man love the role as much as this?
No, I don't think I have. He's having a whale all the time.
And he's brilliant in it as well. And they conduct this villainy right the way through it in broad sight of absolutely everybody. Yeah. The tourist trade is still roaring in New Orleans, obviously, despite no police presence. And Roper, poor old Roper, when he gets given the money belt, and he says, well, what do I do if I don't make it to the river? And Van Cleef gives this line I've never understood. You're a sports fan, Roper. Figure it out. Figure what? I'll lose. Does it mean I'm automatically dead? In this instance, yeah. But then he gets gunned down in front of absolutely everybody.
On Main Street, yeah.
There's like a big party going on, and everyone's ignoring it because he's asking for help, isn't he? And everyone's like, hey, you've got no change, man. Screw you, man. Just genuinely needs help. But you're
Do you know who that is?
You rich fuckers.
So that guy who delivers that line, like really chewing on it, I ain't got no change, man. Right, that is Sam Raimi's brother, Ted Raimi, and you might have noticed that Sam Raimi is actually an executive producer on the film.
Yeah.
So the reason he got involved is the studio brought him on because Wu at the time, coming from Hong Kong, didn't have the greatest grasp of English, I don't think. and they were worried he wouldn't be able to get a tune out of the American crew. So they had Sam Raimi there just on standby, like if it all went south, to step in and direct the film, I think.
That's amazing.
What actually happened is he ended up being Woo's staunchest defender against the studio when they were trying to tell him, like, what's with all the fucking doves, man? Why is he putting 55 bullets into that man?
So that's I was surprised to see Sam Raimi, but again, that's the Vosloo connection, I guess, because wasn't Vosloo like in all the Darkman sequels?
Possibly.
Oh, was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them for a long time.
I think he replaced Neeson as the lead guy.
Oh, he
in
did.
Darkman,
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Oh no,
That's
not
amazing.
Liam Neeson.
Let's quickly roll on to the next thing.
Was he out looking for people with a kosh? Is that why he couldn't do the Darkman sequels? They're his words. They're his words.
We will move extremely briskly forward with a question on the story-wise, it's as economical as it gets, isn't it? Really,
96 minutes, is it? Just goes by like butter. It's just so
butter. It's like butter.
I think, like, I mean, the central conceit is brilliant, isn't it? There's people in a sort of a forgotten backwater area of America that are running these illegal hunting expeditions, with the prey being the ex-veterans. I mean, that for a premise is brilliant to start with. But then...
but it's not their premise, is it? It's based on the most dangerous game, isn't it?
Of course.
Chuck Ferrara hasn't
no.
But
I mean, as a story, and then taking that story and then going, right, well, they messed up. The people who did it messed up, and there's a daughter involved, and she's come back, and now she's got someone who really is a tough guy, who's a tough guy, who really is
a tough guy,
a double denim, hard as nails legend, who is here to sort everything out. And then the last 40 minutes of the film, as we've said, is just one big long rumble, which goes on for ages, and I absolutely love every second of it. Oh, and that's when Wilfred Brimley comes in.
Uncle Duvet.
Chance.
Which, when pronounced as Chance, makes way more sense that he's called Chance and not Chance.
Yeah. So, did his mama actually take a chance and not a chance? Take a chance on me.
I think before we get into the final act smackdown,
yes,
I do remember, from watching this film with you guys over in that summer of 2008 or whatever it was, I became quite obsessed with a certain scene in this film. I don't know if you guys remember.
I think I know
remember.
exactly what you're talking about, James.
So there's a sequence where Chance, he basically cracks the case because there's no... and he figures out that Nat's dad has actually been murdered and not just burnt to death in a factory, because he finds his discarded dog tag with an arrow through it. So he's like, oh, murder, bingo.
Yeah, like Poirot, like his Belgian comrade.
Yeah, he's like
Poirot.
Yes. He shits on Poirot. I've never seen anyone shot at
Poirot never roundhouse kicked someone in the face as good as
after emptying
I would give
16 bullets into their chest.
John Suchet and double denim roundhousing kicking. Lance Henriksen in the face. That's what I want.
So anyway, Van Cleef dispatches some lads, as Bishop calls them. I'm just going to keep calling him Bishop because I can't remember his name.
He said, get the lads. It's like such an un-American thing to say.
So one of these lads has one line in the film, and boy, does he go for it. He absolutely goes for it.
How does he... Just remind us, James, how does he say this?
So I'm going to say it. I'm going to actually quote the verbatim dialogue, and then I'll give you an idea of how he delivers it. They kick the shit out of poor Chance. They like hog tie him and all sorts of stuff. So this street tough offers what he calls friendly advice, but I don't think it's especially friendly. He tells Chance politely to get the fuck out of Dodge and do it today, and tell that bitch girlfriend of yours to point her titties north and step on the gas. How this is delivered in the film Just bear with me a second. Like, just grab this guy's motivation. I'm in a John Woo movie. This is my chance. I'm bald.
This is your shot.
This is your chance.
You only get one shot. You only get one chance.
You get one chance.
Right. Some friendly advice, Boudreaux. Get the fuck out of Dodge. Do it today. And tell that bitch girlfriend of yours to point his titties knob and step on the gas.
Oh my god!
I remember, like, after that.
I mean, am I exaggerating?
No, that's exactly how it was.
And do you think John Woo just went, is this what Americans talk like?
Do it today!
Do it today!
And I think for that summer, I just basically just kept doing that quick line over and over again.
Oh, I'm actually crying.
As you might imagine, I was quite a hit with the ladies that summer.
I remember hearing it, like when we were in the nightclub after watching Hard Target, and we're like, anyone know where James has gone? And step on the kid! We'll be somewhere in the back, like, oh, he's over there. Yeah, we'll go find him over there. But the kid is now!
Oh, I'm being ejected again.
As you were saying, he cracks the case in that moment, doesn't he? Because they've got that sap.
There's one police officer in the whole...
What, sorry? Oh, yeah, there's one police officer.
There's one police.
And it's a birthday as well, Blocker.
I know. And then she puts a lit candle in an office drawer. What an idiot. I mean, what?
Oh, I know.
She could have burned the whole house down.
To bring this full circle, Detective Mitchell, as she's called. So I've got questions about Detective Mitchell. So there's a citywide police strike going on. So first of all, is Detective Mitchell a scab? Is she a picket jumper, basically? Is she getting, like, bombarded with rotten fruit from the other strikers as she crosses the picket line, like in Billy Elliot, on the way into the office each morning? And my mate, who just delivered that really subtle line, he's the one who ices her in the end when it all kicks off. He's hanging out the Jeep. Titties north!
I was very surprised she died, actually. I was like, oh, it's all right. She's just got, like, a flesh wound. She'll be fine. And then it's like, no, she's dead. I was like, oh.
No, she's dead as fuck. Like.
Really hard.
I mean, and they left her bleeding out, hemorrhaging all over the sidewalk as well. I mean, it was not a nice way to go.
While sat on the motorbike, and the camera angle's really low, looking at her like as if it's her point of view. Oh, yeah. And Van Damme just looks down and goes, she's already dead. And then they drive off.
It's time to go nut.
That's Chance at his most ruthless, I think.
He is a pretty ruthless guy.
Yeah, we have a crisp shoot out there after Mitchell gets iced by Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to jump in, James. I think that's one of the best shot shootouts I've ever seen, that bit on the sidewalk there. Just immediately after, when they find Randall's body, or what's left of it, after Van Cleef's had a giggle over it, that whole bit where it starts with, Mitchell gets shot, and then the motorbike comes along, and Van Damme runs behind that car, and then does that. I mean, it's the most kinetic camera move following Van Damme's. I like to think it's Van Damme and not one of the awful body doubles, but he jumps up and boots the motorcycle dude in the head. That is all.
It's certainly not the same stunt double, the human fridge who was on the motorbike later in the sequel.
That boot to the face of the motorbike guy was very satisfying. Like, very satisfying.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think a lot of the satisfaction of the impact in this film is the sound design is ace. You know, like, everything sounds like chunky and solid, and it's horrible. Everything's hitting home.
Yeah,
I love it.
The lighting as well, actually, while we're on sort of technicalities, I thought the lighting was very, very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we're in Randall's office, the lighting is exceptional in that scene. Everything's all, like, through blinds. It's all very, like, noir-y.
I think it's great.
Yeah,
but
it's
the
really
film's got
good.
a very distinctive look, and I think that all comes from the New Orleans setting as well. I think it all comes from that. Well, I say New Orleans, that one corner of real estate that they had, which they kept redressing over and over again. But like they had that's another iconic setting, isn't it? When they're chasing Roper, the graveyard. Not the graveyard. It's such an iconic one, isn't it? Last time I saw anything like that, it's been copied so many times, that sort of graveyard. I don't know whether it's based on a specific one.
Oh, there's a brilliant sight gag when they're chasing Roper through the graveyard, and like this stiff who's paid to kill him, basically, he shoots like a statuette and blows its head off, and Roper's like terrified face is right behind.
One of my favourite bits. That's actually a very good. Well, like you say, it's a sight gag, but great shot. It's amazing.
It's brilliant, and there's invention all the way the film through, like that, all the way through the film, just like that, where you're constantly shown something more interesting and interesting to look at, and an interesting way of looking at it, and an interesting way of showing someone get shot 800 times.
Excessive.
You could never say that it is boring to look at.
No, I mean, and it's not surprising it looks so good. I've just looked it up. Russell Carpenter is the director of photography who shot True Lies and Titanic, amongst many other credits.
Oh wow!
So
well, there you go.
He's not the worst in the business for shooting.
Of those, I would assume this is the one that he's most proud of. I would have thought. If he's not, he needs to take a good old look at himself, because it was John Woo who gave him the original chance.
You have a bit of respect for Attack of the 50-Foot Woman and Pet Sematary 2 and Lawnmower Man, my friend.
Lawnmower Man, wow.
Lawnmower Man.
Sorry, Pierce Brosnan at his handsome
he
best.
shot Death Warrant with Van Damme as well. Oh, brilliant.
Hey, this guy's got a good career. No, the lighting was great.
I like to think now that it was Van Damme who actually pushed this guy forward for the job, saying, "John, I've got the perfect guy. He needs a chance. I've got to stop doing the gag writes it. The gag writes itself every time.
Just give him a chance. Why won't you give him a chance?"
We've discovered. What about we've looked at the soundtrack. We've looked at visuals. What about the acting overall?
Oh, I mean, it's superb, obviously.
I mean, I think like as we've said, Lance Henriksen and Vosloo, great double acts. And in terms of henchmen, I'm really struggling to find as good a henchman as Van Cleef in any of those 90s.
I know what you mean, like the head henchman, the right hand man. Yeah, I'd not thought of it like that, but you're absolutely right.
Oh, it was great. I was devastated when he died. I was like rooting for that guy. I know he was a horrible man,
He died so well though. Like it had the.
It was 17 gunshots to the stomach.
Only 17, not enough. He's not dead.
No.
Before we get onto the shootout in the Mardi Gras graveyard with all the floats,
Mardi Gras graveyard,
there's a couple of things that we've got to cover. So basically, Van Damme and Nat make off on a motorbike, having taken out a load of Bishop's dudes. Right, in the street. Lads, yeah, they are. Lads.
Is that when he blows up the car? Yeah, he blows up the car. I counted, it cuts 5 times. So it repeats the car explosion 5 times.
Yeah.
It's that,
why not?
The old trapping.
And, obviously John Woo would go on to do Mission Impossible 2, which is a skid mark on that particular on the underpants of that particular franchise.
Great opening sequence, though. Opening sequence.
Yeah, fantastic. But the motorbike sequence and the jumping over the cars and the shooting of the gas tank, this was like a little bit of a preamble. And it's like, oh, wait until I get Tom Cruise and a big budget to do this project.
Yeah. Never thought about it like that.
So anyway, Van Damme and Chance and Nat make it to the bayou, and they're making their way through the woods. And this is probably the most famous scene in the film coming up here. Is they're making their way through the woods and they come across Chance asks Nat to trust him with her eyes closed, which
she's expecting some sugar. She is expecting some sugar.
She's expecting some JCVD, isn't she? Really, like. But she gets a snake of a very different kind. There is a rattlesnake on her shoulder, which Van Damme pulls over her shoulder, right, and proceeds
and a guitar goes when he does it as well, by the way.
And proceeds to knock it out by punching it in the face.
What else would you do? What else would you do in that situation? I mean, of course you'd punch it in the head.
Well, no. First he slaps it.
Yes,
he slaps it on the top of the head first. Is that what it's for? I thought he was I thought this was sassy Van Damme again.
Probably was. I'm probably giving the screenplay too much credit there.
In the screenplay it says Sassy Chance does something sassy with a snake.
With a snake. It's not a euphemism.
Yeah, I mean, the noise afforded the punch to the head of the snake is exceptionally meaty. I can't imagine it being like a, you know.
I mean, the snake has a bad couple of hours, doesn't he, really? Because then Chance isn't happy with that. He's knocked it out cold, right? He rips the rattle off the back of it.
With his teeth. With his
Probably
teeth.
really painful, yeah. And he leaves it behind for Bishop and Van Cleef to find, basically. So the poor old snake is, like, tailless, right? And attacks one of the henchman number 6 or something and bites him in the face. And then Bishop gets really upset and blows its head off. The snake gets treated worse than Randall in this movie. He wasn't doing anything, he was hanging out.
Well, I never understood how this trap worked. You know, I mean, what did he do with it? Because when we leave Van Damme, he bites off the rattle, he winks and does that, you know, with something like,
we leave a trap.
We leave a surprise, you know, and and then he fixes to throw it up in the tree. What is it? He just chucks it up there, and then he leaves like a little snare for someone to stand on, and then they stand on it, and suddenly a snake gets chucked out of a tree. It's like Home Alone suddenly in these trees, but with mutilated snakes being flung out of these overhangs, and this guy gets bit, but I mean, it's horrible. And then he convulses immediately on the spot. I mean, it's the most venomous snake of all time. No time for anti-venin. This dude is trashed.
Yeah.
And Van Cleef loves it. He's like, ooh.
This guy's good.
This guy's good. And he's got a smile on his face. Oh, it's marvellous. Everything about it's marvellous.
So yeah, from there, they end up at Uncle Duvet's place. I think Rob's got a lot of love for Wilfred Brimley in this movie, haven't you, Rob?
I'd seen this before I'd seen The Thing. And so then you watch The Thing and I'm like, what's Uncle Duvet doing? Why is it, you know, and I didn't know that he had he didn't have a cod French accent. It's like, what's this? He's talking like I don't understand. And the fact that there was some pseudo villainy at hand. I mean, obviously it's part of the plot of The Thing. It blew me mind that watching him in something else.
Overrated.
Oh, behave.
I love that movie. I love that movie. I'm only joking. But I mean, Rob, let's talk seriously.
Oh yeah.
If you have to pick between The Thing and Hard Target, which are you going with?
Oh, it's Hard Target every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Outrageous.
No, and then poor Uncle Duvet's, you know, like he sacrifices his house
for no
and his
reason.
Moonshine business
For no reason.
It never needed to happen.
They're not even anywhere near the house when it blows up.
Yeah, and Uncle Duvet's got some brilliant lines that I don't think he looks like he is moonshined to the eyeballs right the way through. The you know, when because Chance goes off and leaves Nat, with Uncle Duvet, and they just hide in the bushes on a pair of horses, and he gets angry and he's like, oh, you know, I think you should call a sheriff, and she runs off after, we've got to go tell Chance, and he's like, oh, she should have called a sheriff. he's on his own, this fella, he's mad. I love him. And then, of course, they go from there directly to because Chance says to him, we meet at Mardi Gras graveyard. And then they're off there. And it's what a great setting for a final showdown.
Yeah, the only real problem I have with this film is the well, you know, obviously it's not a masterpiece, but you know, for the type of film that it is, I think the helicopter chase is just so pointless. Like, I can take him from the air. No, we have to hunt him properly. He's killed like 15 of our guys already. Like, just put an end to it. Instead, Bishop's trying to monetize this thing that's going to ruin him. Like, why not just hire some proper mercenaries and just take him out? Like,
I just don't understand how he's forged this business. What is he getting? Like $500,000 a pop, or is it $750 for these? For that, when trying to get Chance?
They say it's an amazing. You know, he's a stellar target, a premier target. Yeah.
Well, I mean, essentially, you're killing homeless people. So I'm pretty sure those people, if they were really desperate, could cut out the middleman and just not pay $500,000.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So many unanswered questions about their business model, perhaps. You know, not one for Dragon's Den, perhaps. I'm not sure.
I would love to see Van Cleef and Bishop take this to the Dragons.
What about, as send-offs go for villains, we've talked about Vosloo's, but Henriksen's is pretty good, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. What, grenade down the trousers?
Yeah. And then he's dead unlucky though, isn't he? He gets it out and unscrews it, and then he holds it there, and then like he's like ha ha ha, and then a spark licks. Why didn't you just hold it an inch further apart? Why did you still hold it like that?
Just before that moment though, like when his coat catches on fire.
Oh yeah.
It's him. It's not a stunt double. It's him. It's like, holy shit, you're on fire. Get your fucking coat off, you idiot.
Stop acting.
After that, when he's dead, the film ends really abruptly, doesn't it? Actually,
yeah.
It just suddenly credits roll when Uncle Duvet is very upset about how injured he is, and he's not actually injured. It's his hip flask of moonshine that he says it's a catastrophe. And then suddenly, and they hug and laugh, and then the credits roll. And it's like, oh, right. Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So what I'll gear that towards is the question, would you recommend this film for people to check out again, to give it a second chance? Is this film for our reconsideration?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love this film. I think it's brilliant. It's not, you can't say it's like high art. You never would. But as a perfect sort of Friday night film when you've had a couple of drinks or what have you, and, maybe devouring a takeaway or something like that, like it's absolutely perfect for that. You just go along. It's a straightforward story. I think the dialogue is hilarious. Whether that's intentional or not, I probably quote this screenplay more, forget your Quentin Tarantino's and Aaron Sorkin's. Like, Chuck Ferrara has written the most quotable screenplay as far as I'm concerned.
Mick Foley wrote the screenplay.
And yeah, the action's great.
Yeah.
And Van Damme's hilarious and brilliant physically as well. Like,
yeah.
I just enjoy it. I think I treat it like an action comedy. It's not, but I
fun is
feel
the
like
big
it's so much
word,
fun.
Isn't it? I'm going to sort of give a little preamble to what I would say about Reconsider just by reading this review I found on Letterboxd from JP Smith. It's great. I fucking hated this. I'm actually speechless. I don't even know where to start. The script, the performances, the editing, all terrible. Fucking bad. Now, old JP Smith has watched this. This review was in 2017, so he's watched this with a 2017 eye. If you go in knowing it's from the 90s, knowing it's John Woo, and taking it tongue firmly in cheek, it is an acquired taste. If you don't like action movies, you're not going to like it. If you don't like 90s action movies, you're not going to like it at all. But if you want 90 minutes, a streamlined 90 minutes of fun with the sexiest 90s action star, hands down.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
It's such good fun. And I was in the spare room watching it while my girlfriend was in the other room watching the Michael Jackson documentary. And I was just pissing myself laughing for half an hour and a half. And she was in tears. So, I mean, who had the better night?
Well, I very succinctly put, boys. I tend to agree. I mean, I know that it was my film that I brought to the table tonight to kick us off. But I think that's right. If you acknowledge what you're going in for, know the players involved in this, you're going to have a good time. Don't just go in and enjoy it, and you will enjoy it, and have a good time with it. And like you say, James, perfect Friday night stuff, lots of fun sight, and I couldn't agree more with you both there. So I think from us, that is a definite recommendation that you give this film another chance.
Absolutely.
Boys, that was a thoroughly enjoyable discussion. Tune in next time for another episode of For Your Reconsideration, where I think we'll be discussing Speed Racer next time.
Ooh.
And then, yeah. Oh,
who picked that?
The man who just spoke. In the meantime, please catch up with us on Twitter at For Your Reconsideration. Have a great week. Catch you soon. Say goodbye, boys.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.